to Edisto right now. This is the first location it will be impacting. And, you know, it honestly has a pretty decent signature here as well. As it's kind of only about 2-3 miles offshore of Edisto at this point.
Yeah,
so
it's generally right in this area just off the coast. There's the reflectivity. This is the actual rainfall. I was just kind of backing out just a little bit to see what else is coming. And just to give everybody else a heads up, you can kind of see another region right down here that we've got to keep an eye on too, because that also is packing quite a punch, and that is kind of moving more northwest. So that actually may impact potentially Seabrook and Kiowa again, and then eventually into central Charleston County, which would include downtown, by the way, which is under flash flood warnings right now because of already rain that we've seen, and now additional rain is certainly possible. But of most concern right now is that red box that you see popping up there. That is a tornado warning based on severe thunderstorms that potentially could produce waterspouts. And on our Storm Team 2 Live Viper, we've actually seen some rotation. I'll go back to that.
No doubt about it. That's pretty decent.
Yeah, right there, right there. This is where you see, I'll circle it for you. So what we call a couplet right here. Again, that's where you've got incoming, outgoing winds together. So that kind of shows you how the tornado is circulating and how radar can see whether you've got some rotation or circulation within the storm. So right there. So let me zoom on in. If we can, I'll get maybe a better bearing for you. I know Legree, we mentioned Legree, Palmetto Boulevard right there. So if you're right there, almost, you can see Palmetto Boulevard kind of cuts towards Legree Road. That's an area of, I don't know if these other streets, yeah, we can. So Eel Island Road, Legree Road, we mentioned that. We'll kind of zoom in also to Edensville Beach Road. So I know I'm throwing out some landmarks for those folks down on Edisto, Crisp Road. If you're in that area, it looks like the circulation jet is just about to make landfall right over that area. So that could potentially be a waterspout. I don't know if we have any visual, but the tornado warning was based on the fact that we think there was a waterspout that could be produced by these severe thunderstorms. Right,
it is right on the doorstep of Edisto. So again, I know I do sound like a broken record, but if you live in Edisto, especially if we just mentioned some of those road names, and that sounds familiar to you, you want to get to that interior room away from all windows. Certainly turn your TV up so you can continue to hear us, but the number one thing is to get away from the glass, from the windows, and try to get as many walls in between you and the outside of your house as possible. It is right about to move into Edisto. It's actually potentially starting to pick up as far as the winds go, like right along the beaches. And it won't be much longer until, again, this is working through Edisto. So
what we're looking at right here, you see that blue area, that is the potential waterspout, circulation, rotation, if you will, that is moving northwest at a pretty good clip. But you notice the tornado warning is pretty large. We'll see if this holds together, and if it does, then we're talking about areas a little farther inland within this tornado watch. So Pine Landing, Little Edisto, Steamboat Landing, Bennett's Point potentially. Could be impacted by this as well. At the same time, to the south, you see another tornado warning. This is generally for the Beaufort area, Beaufort, just between Beaufort and Hilton Head, that also moving off to the northwest. Anything else that we see there? But again, what you're looking at is that area of blue moving very, very quickly, showing us on Storm Team 2 Live Viper potential rotation within a storm. A tornado warning was just issued by the National Weather Service. That's why we're here instead of the Olympics. And again, I'm a big fan of the Olympics too, and I get it, I understand. But as part of being a television station, we have a contract with the Federal Communications Commission that if we do have severe weather like a tornado warning, we need to be on the air. We need to warn people because you just never know. So that's why we're here, and we'll try to hopefully get off as soon as we can, TV that is. But at this point, we've got to keep watch on this as it continues to move on inland.
Yeah, a little bit of a hook echo there, just another signature that is showing the potential for rotation as it approaches. And as I'm kind of zooming in here, Public Beach Access 12 on Edisto, Palmetto Boulevard to the west end of the island. If you live within that area, that looks like probably the best area for where this will be approaching. This is certainly, it's actually just now approaching the beach in between those two areas. And we just, again, advise you, can't say it enough, to shelter immediately. Don't try to go outside and look for this because, again, the rain is extremely heavy. This could potentially do damage here. It could potentially break windows. That's why we want you to get away from all windows. Try to get as many walls in between you and the outside of your house as possible as this approaches.
All right, this is all because of Debbie. I mean, this is very, very familiar to us. I remember back in 2017 we had Irma, and Irma brought some rotation and some tornadoes. Of course, Idalia did the same last year. So this is not foreign to us to have these landfalling systems, whether they come in from your south and west or come in directly from the ocean, to see rotation. These finger bands, if you will, that's just long extended fingers that can have rotation. Let's see, emphasize, need to seek shelter. So again, getting some pretty strong words from our good friends of the National Weather Service, yeoman's job they do each and every day. This is a serious situation, and if you're on Edisto Beach and you're in those areas that we mentioned already, right in here, again, this is along Palmetto Boulevard, so can't see if there's any other Dockside Road, Librant Street, right there. This is the area of most concern because that seems to be where that circular, right there, you can see it. It's already on shore, has moved onshore right along Edisto Beach. So please take shelter immediately if you live on, looks like Island Potential Court, Oyster Row Lane, Palmetto Road, again, extending back out over Edisto. And there's the end of Edisto, as you can certainly see. So it is moving northwest at a pretty good clip. I mean, based on what the National Weather Service is telling us, most likely this is a waterspout that has moved onshore. And again, typically waterspouts do kind of weaken very quickly because once they get onshore, they do encounter the friction of the trees and the buildings, and as opposed to water, they just travel without much friction at all. And looks like potentially it may be, I wouldn't say it's falling apart, Jed, because you still have a little signature there, right there.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty decent signature. It's moving right through Edisto right now. So there's the potential for damage here. And again, the potential for windows being broken is certainly there. It's moving right through actually pretty much the middle of Edisto. This is one of the more populated sections of Edisto in general. So again, everyone in that area, we just advise you move into that interior room and stay there. We'll keep monitoring this as it eventually pushes out. Oftentimes when waterspouts move ashore, they can be pretty brief and they end up weakening as they kind of continue to push inland. That's what we hope to see, but right now I'm not seeing any sure-tell signs of that occurring. Yeah,
and they're usually generally weak, EF0, EF1 potentially, but again, there are weak storms, but still you're talking about 65, 75, 85 mile per hour winds potentially. So, and again, addition to that, because this is Debbie driven, we're talking about torrential rains. We're talking about rainfall totals that, as we mentioned, rain rates were 4, 5, 6 inches. This area coming onshore associated with this potential waterspout that it was warned, tornado warned on just a few minutes ago. Jed, anything new that?
Nothing new is coming in. We do have this tornado warning in effect until 10:15, just as a heads up. So that's another 34 minutes here. That will continue to watch this.
And again, it is a large area right there, this whole area in red. So it does encompass, again, Seabrook Island, Kiowa Island, Wadmalaw, so all of those folks. But having looked at the rotation, we're really concentrating more on this area here as opposed to up here at Seabrook and Kiowa and Wadmalaw. But guys, if you live on Seabrook and Kiowa and Wadmalaw, be on the lookout for some very heavy rain. And let's see offshore if we have any other signatures that might be popping up. Don't see anything right there, but again, it's that area of blue. You see it right here, that moved in, and that's what we're looking at this moment.
Yeah, there's a lot of additional thunderstorms that we'll certainly be dealing with over the next several hours, but the majority of the concern right now is just on Edisto. And primarily on Edisto, that area of rotation, still working through portions of the island right now. Eventually, it will be pushing into the marsh here pretty soon, and then into the river as well. So hopefully we see it weaken as it continues moving to the north.
And no surprise, I mean, we went under a tornado watch earlier today, and there were tornado warnings to our south in Savannah, also to the south in South Carolina and Beaufort, those areas too. So this is not uncommon that we would have a tornado warning within the watch area, especially with a system, a tropical system, where you get these bands of rain, thunderstorms that are firing up around it. You see the broad circulation. I would have to say that probably the center of circulation is somewhere right in here for Debbie, and again, it's moving north and east. So a very, very slow rate. The last I saw was only about 6 miles an hour, and it's going to slow to a crawl. So a lot of what you see down here, that also is going to move into the low country of South Carolina, and that's why the forecast for potential heavier rainfall totals does continue overnight.
Yeah, that's the big concern here. Mainly is just the rain, but again, we also have that additional threat of tornadoes. We're tracking one now. And like you mentioned, Rob, we do have that tornado watch. It's in effect until 1 in the morning. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up issuing another tornado watch heading into the midday hour for Tuesday. We're dealing with multiple rounds of showers and thunderstorms, and all of these thunderstorms on the northeast side of this system will be capable of producing waterspouts and possibly tornadoes as well. So, of course, we've got you covered as we go all throughout the rest of the night. Grace and Josh will also be in once we get into the early morning hours, and they've got your back as well. We're looking at our Storm Team 2 Viper storm winds right now, and I will say that latest scan doesn't look quite as definite to me, so that could potentially be some good news there. Yeah, I'm zooming out.
Yeah, just want to just reiterate what's going on. Tornado warning. That's why we're on TV instead of the Olympics right here on News 2. Tornado warnings are that serious of a situation. So we did have a severe thunderstorm or thunderstorms capable of producing a waterspout. We saw it offshore. We knew a warning may come. We ran down here as quickly as we possibly could to get on TV and just to keep you informed. But it's really Edisto Beach and now just inland of the beach where it did appear to make some kind of a landfall. That is the waterspout, and that's why we're here. But you see it's a pretty large warned area that encompasses Edisto Beach, Seabrook, Kiowa, Wadmalaw. And again, what we do is we await the word from the National Weather Service. The warning is still in play. We have to continue to broadcast, and we'll get back to the Olympics here in just a little while.
Yeah, it looks like where the area of the rotation is at this point, it's starting to move into the Big Bay Creek behind Edisto. There's also a lot of marshland behind that as well. So that's good news that there aren't folks in that area right now. I also will say the last few scans don't look quite as ominous as the other scans we were looking at as it was pushing through Edisto, so that's a good sign as well. But additionally, you know, we're just going to have to keep watching this thunderstorms that continues to push off to the north and west.
Jed, we'll give it a couple more minutes and we'll kind of keep an eye on it, and we'll be right here. We're not leaving, but we may go back to the Olympics and just kind of monitor as we're not really seeing anything, you know, and we're awaiting word if there's any confirmation. But again, I think we've hopefully warned people, given them a heads up about what is going on and what has happened. It's this area right here. You see the blue. That's the area that was a little, you can see the deeper shades of blue. That kind of indicates to us there was definitely a rotation signal, if you will, and that has weakened just a little bit. So we'll hang tight for a few more minutes and just kind of give you and follow along as we, at the very least, again, we're talking about very heavy rainfall, and this is part of the tropical system. Flash flood warnings have been issued, flood advisories have been issued, so any additional rainfall is going to create some flooding. So therein becomes our next problem, main issue overnight and through the day tomorrow. I always felt like when we looked at a 4-day stretch of Debbie that it was going to be Tuesday and Wednesday that would be the worst days. Monday, today would be the day to kind of kick things off, and then Tuesday and Wednesday would be worse, and hopefully Thursday improvement, even though some models saying it may hang around a little bit longer. But we'll kind of deal with that as we get a little more data in. There's certainly low confidence in that forecast on the back end, but there's high confidence in the forecast about what's happening right now, and that is the heavy rainfall.
That's right, and that heavy rainfall really is just going to pick up heading into the morning hours tomorrow. So that's a big concern, and that's one of the reasons why we do have that flash flood warning in effect for an additional 2 to 4 on top of the 2 to 4 that's already fallen. And we'll continue to see really heavy rainfall rates, especially for the first half of the day tomorrow in particular. That's what it's been looking like a lot. And then, of course, we still have the potential for isolated tornadoes as well. No, that's definitely the secondary concern as we head into tomorrow. The main concern is the rain, but we still have that risk as well. So there's a lot of things to keep an eye on as we go through the next several days here.
All right, Jed, if we can, I'll turn the controls over to you. I'm going to go over to the chroma key wall, our green screen we call it, and we're going to kind of take a closer look at what's going on with this because, again, we've got the very heavy rainfall that is continuing. So I'll turn it over to you. Head over to the wall, and I know our director, Chris, is right on it. So All right, here we go. So this is what we're looking at. Again, this is the tornado warned area. In that warned area, we have torrential rainfall. These rainfall rates are about 3, 4, 5 inches per hour. So if you're watching us in this warned area, again, you're getting very heavy rainfall. What we did notice on that last scan, you may have seen, not as much in the way of that color of deep blue in terms of the rotation. So it looks like it is going to be weakening. Now, the warned area does extend pretty far out across the lower portions of Colleton County as well as Charleston County. So here it is. There is, now it looks like that's right there, Jed. So that's another scan just north and west of Edisto. Boy, traveling right up the river, and it's moving very, very quickly. Let's see if there's any landmarks in the way that we can kind of detail. So we're still seeing some rotation. This is south of Pine Landing, and it is just to the east and northeast of Seabrook. And again, it's moving northwest. So Bennett's Point, be on the lookout for this. Baldwin Lane looks like it might pass just off to your east and northeast, but this is the area that moved very, very quickly through as a potential waterspout. And the fact that it's held together, but part of the reason it's held together, I think it's very marshy there, very low, and you've got water, so you're not talking about buildings and trees and things that might create some friction. There is the new scan. It looks like it's shifted off to the north and west now, north of Seabrook. So it is moving very, very quickly and potentially could be out of the warned area. And this is the storm winds from Storm Team 2 Live Viper. You see the green going towards, you see the red going away. So when we look inside these storms, this is an amazing tool that radar has these days. You can actually see air coming closer to the radar and going the other direction. So now you put those together, and now you're talking about a circulation. A lot of people ask, how do you know about if a tornado is either on the ground or in the sky, not yet determined to be on the ground yet? That's one reason why that many tornadoes are warning issued, because of radar indicated tornadoes as opposed to having seen the tornado kind of back in the old days. So Jed?
And Rob, I actually just got a report, multiple reports of structures damaged on Edisto Beach from the tornado. So the potential there for damage has been realized on Edisto right now. So we really hope that everyone's okay. Yeah,
we'll keep following that because, again, as we mentioned, sometimes you just don't know who's in the path of these, and that's why we're here, to warn people. And certainly the National Weather Service is doing a great job warning them, warning us to warn you about this tornado warning. So again, this is the area. They came in right near Edisto Beach, right there along Palmetto Boulevard, and now it's moved very quickly just to the south and southeast of Bennett's Point. It is well to the west of Seabrook Island, Wamala, and Kiowa. So even though you're in that warned area, we've kind of highlighted this region right here. And you see, there we go, there it is.
Backing up in time here.
All right, yeah, you can see the time too. Jed, go back a little bit. Let's look at the time, about 9:37. It was just offshore, and then it moved right over. And now, again, as we're hearing some indications of potential buildings being damaged by this, which once it reaches land, it's a full-fledged tornado. It's a waterspout over water, but a waterspout, once it reaches land, becomes a tornado. So that's what's happening right now. And you can see there's Seabrook. So it looks like it's just to the north and northeast of Seabrook, moving very quickly. Again, any other indication, Jed, anything new that you have for us?
I haven't seen anything else new here, but again, it looks like it did do damage as it moved through Edisto. Thankfully, this area that it's currently over is very marshy, and additionally we have the river there, but there's still Baldwin Lane. There's some folks, Bennett's Point, that certainly need to keep an eye on this as it eventually slowly moves in that direction. But the good news, when I was pulling back the frame, you can kind of see how the rotation itself becomes a little bit weaker. Right. So that's the good news. It was really strong right over Edisto right there. That was at 9:38 p.m. And now as we kind of fast forward through time, it's just not looking quite as strong. The greens aren't quite as bright, the reds aren't quite as bright, and they're a little bit further apart. So that's good news to see.
And our radar that we use is actually centered down in Grays, South Carolina, so it's looking at this from down to its south and southwest. Here's that warned area. You kind of see where it is. It's eventually moving this general direction, so it's probably going to move out of the warned area. But this is Colleton County. You can see Colleton County, you can see Charleston County. Those are the counties involved in this warning. The lower portion of Charleston County. But again, we've kind of, at least for the moment, taken Seabrook and Kiowa and Wabala. Don't want to get you guys too upset there, because I think you're out of this area that we've been watching, that is, and detailing. But again, moving off to the north and northwest, here's that tornado warning. And this goes for a few more minutes. We'll have to wait and see if this is continued, but if it gets continued, it might get continued to our west and not include some of our counties.
And
looks
there's
like another little couplet down there, if I'm reading that correctly, Jed. That's, again, this is all part of these thunderstorms that are making their way onshore, all part of the broad circulation of what was at one time Hurricane Debbie, now Tropical Storm Debbie. Remember, Debbie made landfall this morning about 7 o'clock in the Big Bend area of Florida. It's now moved across Florida. It's moved into Georgia. It weakened. At last report, the winds were down to about 50 miles an hour or so, and it will continue to weaken as it gets a little closer. Then after that, we got to watch and see if it goes back in the Atlantic Ocean. Potentially, it could strengthen again, but that's something we'll keep an eye on down the road. In the short term, right now, tornado warning in effect for portions of Colleton and Charleston counties, as well as very, very heavy rain. Let's go back to the reflectivity, Jed, which is our rainfall, and you'll see where the heaviest rain is located right up in this area, north and west of Edisto Beach, right along Edisto Beach. Not quite as heavy in Seabrook and Kiowa now, but this is all going to be potentially moving into your area. I know I've got a lot of good friends down on Kiowa, and they've done a yeoman's job getting ready for this, lowering some of the ponds, taking some of the water out, because they knew that this could be a situation where the water just keeps on coming. And it looks like that's going to set up nicely for tonight, and then through the day tomorrow. Most likely will be a very, very soggy night for us. Rainfall totals, wow, look at these totals. Again, you look already 2 to 4 inches. We see a lot of the yellow and the orange colors, and generally 2, 3, 4 inch totals. And a lot of this is just fallen in the last 3 hours. So we're not talking about an all-day rain. This is on top of the rain that you've already seen here earlier in the day. So these are 3-inch rainfall totals. And as we showed you a few minutes ago, the rainfall rates were tremendous. And now we're seeing the result of that in terms of very, very heavy rainfall. Jed, any more information from the National Weather Service about this situation going on right now?
No additional information other than the multiple reports of structures damaged on Edisto from the tornado, and that was known around 9:49 p.m. So,
okay.
And I will say the latest scan that just came through, if I can pull up our storm relative velocity, it's really kind of hard to find a strong area of rotation at this point, which is really good news here as it continues to push off to the north and west. Now, I believe the area of concern would still be generally off to, it's very hard to tell. Yeah,
it really is. I mean,
it's somewhere in here, so that's good news.
You got all kinds of the greens. What we look for are the different shades of greens, that maybe the deeper shades, or one situation, some stronger winds, and then, but again, what we look for, at least on this product, is the red and the green. The red and the green together, what we call a couplet, and that indicates that there was rotation, and certainly there. And we've got, not sure if that's just some noise from the radar, Jed, but again, that might be something else we'll be watching. But this tornado warning is still in effect, has not been discontinued or canceled yet. It may be based on some of our current radar scans, but we don't make that decision. That comes from the National Weather Service. But we're here continuing to broadcast, again, showing you what's happening, not just with the tornado warning, but also with the rainfall that we've seen, which is, as you saw just over the last 3 hours, in the area that got warned has been looking at 2 or 3 inches just in the last 3 hours or so. And there's more offshore. There's still more yet to come. This extends way out into the ocean. And with the circulation around this long finger of showers and thunderstorms are going to be moving on in. Keep in mind now, underneath all of this is a tornado watch that goes until 1 o'clock in the morning. So we may not be done with this just yet in terms of any other spin-ups. Water spouts potentially that could move onshore here later on tonight, as that watch, the watch that is, goes until 1 o'clock in the morning. Jed?
Right. Each of these storms could be culprits for water spouts, tornadoes, as we head through the next several hours. So we're going to have to watch each one of these extending all the way out until it's basically due east of Jacksonville. You notice that very long line of showers and thunderstorms. The other thing that we have really noticed over the last several hours is a big uptick in lightning activity in all of
true.
these thunderstorms as well. And that's a great sign that these are certainly intensifying as they continue to push up to the north and east. But again, you know, zooming back in on our tornado warning, the one that, again, potentially we saw a tornado go through Edisto with reports of damage. Likely confirmed. We can say confirmed at that point because of the damage reports. Once again, the latest scan looks much better than what we've seen over the last 15 minutes. So I would say at this point, I think that the tornado has likely dissipated and things are improving. But of course, we're waiting on the National Weather Service here to give us that definite answer here.
Yeah, and also, you know, when we speculate about a tornado, yes or no, typically it's a survey that's done the next day or days after that will determine whether the damage was actually done by maybe straight line winds, a downburst, or in this case, most likely a tornado or a waterspout that became a tornado. Just because we saw the rotation, there has been some damage. There's some pretty good visual radar proof, if you will, that this was not just a situation like we had back on June 10th where people thought it may have been a tornado, but actually when you see the damage of the trees falling all in the same direction as opposed to a circular damage pattern, that most likely that was collapsing thunderstorms creating strong winds that were knocking over trees and doing damage to buildings. So